I've done quite a bit of research into the PR tactics that the sugar industry has employed, basically to downplay the link between sugar and heart disease and instead shift the blame to fat as the culprit for heart disease. And there is now a new report that has released some historical documents which date back to the 1960s, going all the way back to the 1960s. The sugar industry has been proactively trying to spin misinformation around the connection between sugar consumption and health. And it basically goes two different ways. One way that the sugar industry has been able to do this is by funding studies that ended up showing that heart disease is linked to saturated fat. So then the focus becomes on low-fat diets, and very often when people change one element of their diet, it's relatively zero-sum, and a very easy way to get more calories when you stop getting as many calories from fat is to get more calories from sugar. The other way that the sugar industry has done this, and there's a documentary which I recommended whose name escapes me now, but it's something like, is it Sweet Dreams? I don't remember. But in any case, it explores how the sugar industry, anytime an independent study came out during the 60s, 70s, 80s, whenever, saying sugar consumption is being linked to a whole bunch of different conditions. And this can be connected to prediabetes, prediabetic conditions, and so many other things. The sugar industry would fund a study of its own, and they would never straight up lie and say there's no connection whatsoever between consuming tons of sugar and health effects, negative health effects, but they would basically say it's inconclusive, and what it seems like is you just generally want to control your total calorie intake. And this is the idea that a calorie is a calorie, whether you get a calorie from sugar or whether you get a calorie from whatever else, that as long as you're not eating too many calories, your health is going to be unimpacted by what types of calories you're getting. Now, we know that this is absolutely not true, and we can sort of think about this conceptually by thinking, if you look at the calories that are in a spoonful of sugar, and I don't remember exactly what number that is, if you consider the calories in a spoonful of sugar and the amount of some other food you would have to eat to get that number of calories, and in fact, a good comparison would be something like chicken breast or chicken thigh, you will be much more satisfied or feeling full if you had that same number of calories of chicken than if you consumed those calories as a spoonful of sugar. And this really goes to the heart of the issue, right? That sugar is these empty calories. Sugar is often used in the form of high fructose corn syrup as a filler. We know corn is very, very heavily subsidized. It's a really, really big racket. And we now know that for 50 years, the sugar industry has been funding pseudoscience, non-science, and trying to shift the blame of the connection between food and heart disease off of sugar and to fat. It's not really a surprise. I mean, we've seen this documented pretty well for a while. This does reveal some particular historical records that are really, really specific. And what's really disturbing, and this is also revealed in that documentary, the name of which I just cannot remember right now, but it's very, very good. It's on Netflix. Harvard scientists were paid by the sugar industry to do studies. And again, they came out with, very shockingly, they're just not able to say that there's any negative health repercussions of sugar. And we should all be aware of this. We're increasingly learning much more about the fact that while we want to avoid trans fats, eating healthy fats is not the worst thing for humans. And we're not talking about the Atkins diet, which does seem to have a fair share of problems about just going all crazy and saying my food intake is going to be bacon and just a very processed meats. But that fat in and of itself is not as big a problem as we thought. Salt, while you don't want to overindulge in salt, particularly if you have a predisposition to high blood pressure, salt is not as bad as we were being told it was for a long time. But sugar, refined sugar, really, really is a major problem. So good that there's a major study about this now that has revealed the specific and deliberate misinformation campaign.